And I hear when you look at it in different cities around the country, it's kind of in different stages. In Vegas, it's really fully realized. And in other cities, especially down south, it's more of a work in progress, but there's no reason they can't get there. It's really just an organizing question.
So the other union, and it's another kind of service sector hospitality union that you've been following reasonably closely, and you just had an interview with their new international president, is Unite Here. And they are, there's something maybe closer to what the reform groups in the UFCW would like to see their union turn into. So, talk to us about, you're a big fan of, you're a big booster, I think, for Unite Here. So why is that?
Yeah, like Unite Here, I don't think Unite Here has one member, one vote, so they're not perfect. No union is perfect, but
right.
Unite Here is a hospitality workers union. It's a mid-sized union. I think around 300,000 members, a little less than 300,000 members. Really got their ass kicked during the pandemic because they had so much unemployment in the industries where they represent people. But they've come back from that. Dee Taylor, who was a longtime president of Unite Here, is retired. And Gwen Mills is going to be a successor. She's a very smart, politically minded, strategic person who was the head of their political program for a long time. I mean, what I like about Unite Here is just that they have a sort of formula that runs through the hospitality industry in any given city and then can really scale up into political power. So I wrote a couple of chapters about them in my book as an example, a good example of a union building political power through labor organizing, and not vice versa, and not building political power by spending $200 million, for example, on the Biden campaign, which is what SEIU is doing this year.
Love it.
But, you look at like Las Vegas, where the Culinary Union really spent 80 years organizing every casino on the Strip, striking whenever they need to strike, and seeing every fight as an existential fight, knowing that the industry is trying to break the back of the union in every single fight, going on long strikes when they need to, and just putting everything into new organizing, and then again putting everything into internal organizing and keeping the members mobilized at all times, and constantly having meetings with the members and keeping them energized. And that's what allows them to be such a powerful political force, because they can turn out thousands of people for door knocking. They can turn out thousands of members to knock doors in swing states for the Democrats in important midterm elections and presidential elections, So they punch above their weight as a union because they're always organizing, new organizing, and then internal organizing to keep members engaged with the union. And it's just like, it's pretty basic stuff on one level, but they do it well, they do it consistently, and they have a formula that could be replicated in many, many cities. One of the chapters in my book was about New Orleans and Miami, and looking at Unite Here in those cities and being like, can you build something that is like what they have in Vegas in other cities, And I think by organizing the heart of any tourist industry in a tourist city, you absolutely can, and Unite Here doesn't have a ton of resources. And I think the resources are their big constraint. For example, in organizing all the hotels in New Orleans, they don't have that kind of manpower. But if you can get there, you can really, really build working class power, even in red states, using that formula.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Right. And you spoke about some of their work in Florida and Louisiana, for example, as kind of, utilizations of that blueprint in red states. What were some of the key things about some of their work in New Orleans and Orlando and in Miami that you've found kind of inspiring?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the basic insight is like, you're a hospitality union. If you can go into a city that has a tourist economy, where tourism is a crucial part of the economy of that city, and you organize the big hotels and the convention center and the stadiums and the airport, once you've done that, you kind of have the heart of the tourist economy in your union, right? And then you have a lot of control, actually, if you're willing to exercise that labor power in smart ways over the local economy. And so all of a sudden, if you're able to do that organizing and keep those workers mobilized, you can really start making demands in the local economy that politicians have to listen to. Because if you shut down that tourist economy, it has big, big ripple effects throughout that city. And that is true even in red. Louisiana is a super red state. Florida is a quasi red state. But it kind of doesn't matter, because you're wrapping your hands around the heart of the local economy and you're creating that mobilized labor power. And then you exercise it, and you can raise standards for the whole working class in those cities by doing that, so it's really a formula that can work. You can think right now of probably a dozen cities throughout the country where you're like, tourism is the heart of the economy of the city. And even if it's in a red state, if you can organize A, B, C, D, and E, they're going to have to listen to you. And that's kind of what Unite here, when you look at it in different cities around the country, it's kind of in different stages of being able to do that. In Vegas, it's really fully realized. Like, Vegas is the place where you can really see it in action with the culinary union. And in other cities, especially down south, it's more of a work in progress, but there's no reason they can't get there. It's really just an organizing question.
Right. And I'm looking forward to seeing them continue to invest in the South. And I think at one point we had, International President D. Taylor on when he was still president, and he talked about how they had organized 40,000 new members in the South, is my understanding. If I'm recalling right, it's been like a couple of years since we've talked to him, but yeah, I mean, really exciting work, and I'm looking forward to seeing them continue. Gwen Mills was just elected international president, and she has made a commitment to redouble their organizing efforts, and with a particular focus on the South. Folks can read your interview with her on your Substack, How Things Work. HamiltonNolan.com. But what were some of the highlights from that interview that you think were really important for folks to take away?
Yeah, as you said, she announced that they were doubling their new organizing spending, I believe, up to $20 million. And that's a big deal. That tells me that she kind of grasps the moment that we're in, and the fact that it's time to strike while the iron is hot for unions. And you have to take advantage of the good sentiment that we have now to do that new organizing. And so anytime I see a union, investing in new organizing to that degree, I mean, that tells me a lot about the president and the leadership of that union, and sort of the fact that they understand the big picture of what's happening in labor. The other thing that I always thought that Gwen Mills was kind of smart on the topic of is just like the way that being in a union can help democracy as a whole, like American democracy, and Unite Here is a union that puts a lot of resources, as I said, into going out and doing that door knocking and stuff like that makes it really valuable to the Democratic Party for that reason. But also, I think she understands, and she talked a little bit about, the experience of being in a union and how that can teach working people about, sort of give them the experience of being in a democratic organization and seeing how democracy works within the union, and then being able to project that out into the nation as a whole and the political system as a whole, and that's kind of what you want to see from every union. You would hope that people, when they get into unions, can use a union as a sort of political education tool for working people, and also a springboard for working people to go on and run for office. She talked about having union members run for office. I asked her about the frustrations that people have with the Democratic Party, and her reaction was basically like, we just need to take over the Democratic Party. We need to just run union members for office and take it over, which is something that they've done in certain places. So I thought that was interesting.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think labor would probably be a better runner of the Democratic Party than the Democratic Party. So looking forward to Gwen Mills doing that.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content
free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.